Ray can paint a standard house in 3 days. Ron can do the same type of house in 5 days. Using the following equation, how long should it take for them to paint 3 of the same type of houses if they work together? X represents how long it is to paint one house together. So Ray's pretty quick. Ron's a little slow. So we're going to solve this to find X, which represents how long it takes to paint one house. So let's find out how long it takes to paint one house together. Now, can you tell it's going to be less than 3 days? If they're working together, shouldn't it take less than 3 days to paint the house? If it takes more, you messed up in your math. So let's see what happens here. To solve this, we want to multiply by either 3, 5, or the LCD. Hopefully you can tell the LCD is 15. So I'm going to multiply everything by 15 because 15 engulfs both of them. So I'm going to multiply everything by 15. Watch what happens. This cancels here, leaving you 5. So I have 5x. This right here leaves you 3. So I have 3x. And then you have 15. You combine these, you get 8x equals 15. You divide by 8, and you get x equals 15 over 8. Now, 15 over 8 is an answer. But let's think of that as decimals, about. Well, if we think of decimals, well, isn't 16 over 8 2? So isn't this slightly smaller than 2? So let's say it's about 1.8. Okay? And aren't those days? So this was days. So it takes 1.8 days to paint one house, which, does that make sense if they work together? A 3 and a 5, 1.8 kind of makes sense? Hopefully. Okay, is that the answer, 1.8? Or about 5/15 over 8 days? No. The question says, how much for 3 houses? That's one house. He's got to paint 3 houses together. They have a bigger job. Oh, don't you have to go take 15/8 and times that by 3? Which, won't that be 3 times 15 is 45/8? Which, if that is the answer. It takes 45/8 days, because that's how long they're asking for. Now, 45/8 days, you're like, what's that? Let's approximate. Isn't 40 divided by 8 5? Wouldn't 48 divided by 8 get you 6? So could you also say it's somewhere between 5 and 6, closer to 6? Maybe 5.6 days? Maybe. Could you also say it's about 5.6 days? Yeah. There you go. Make sure you read the question, because for a lot of these problems, that's not your answer. X isn't your answer. X helps you get your answer. You have made your first 5 free throws in a basketball game. Good job. And then you missed all the rest. Oh no, to the end of the game. So you got cold. You want to have better than 75% free throw shooting for the game. So you want to be better than 3/4 of your shots made. That's 75%, 3/4. Using the following inequality, if you shot 8 free throws in the game altogether, would you meet your goal of 75 or better? X represents how many free throws you missed. So we're going to find X, how many free throws you missed. But the question is really a yes-no question. Did you meet your expectation? If you shot 8 free throws altogether and missed the first 5, did you get better than 75%? So we're going to take this inequality, solve it for X, and then see what X represents to answer the question. Now, it's an inequality. I'm going to make that an equal sign for now, because to solve this with the inequality gets a little creepy. And I'm just going to keep in my mind realizing there's an inequality involved here. So it's on one side or the other. So since I have a fraction and a fraction, isn't this called a proportion? So wouldn't cross multiplying be your best way to solve this? So let's multiply those. and I get 500. I'm going to use an equal sign instead of the inequality. Multiply that, I get 75x plus, what's 5 times 75? Let's see. 5 times 75 looks like 375. All right. So I cross multiply and solve. Again, I made an equal sign instead of an inequality. I'll come back to that. Now I solve it. So minus 375. Man, I can't write. Minus 375. So I have 75x equals 125 divided by 75. And I have x equals, reduce that, that is 5/3, which is about, well, 5/3 is 1 2/3, which is 1.7-ish, 1.6666. And 1.7 stands for what units? Isn't that free throws? So 1.73 throws, what was x stand for? X represents how many free throws you missed. So if you miss 1.7 free throws, what does that mean? Well, if you miss more than 1.7, aren't you below 75%? If you miss less than 1.7, aren't you above 75%? So isn't that the break point? That's where the inequality comes in. Okay, so let's think. You took 8 shots. You started with 5. So how many did you miss? You got to think about that. If I started with 5 and I've missed, I took 8 altogether and I made the first 5, but I missed the last, doesn't that mean I missed 3? Did not have 3 misses. According to this, 1.7, is 3 misses going to take me below or above 75%? Doesn't it take me below 75%? Which is a big fat no. You did not make your quota. Now, here's a very quick way of doing it, just using basic math skills. Watch this. It's really actually simple. If he made 5 out of 8, use a calculator, what do you get? When you do that, you get 0.625, which is 62.5%. Is that above or below 75%? Below. Done. So did you really even have to use this equation? No. You could have quickly done 5 out of 8. I shot less than 75%, done. But the equation's there to help you to see if you can go that route if you can't understand the problem out of logic, out of street smarts. The $600 prize is divided evenly among all the winners. Initially, there are X winners. But when one more winner comes forward, causing each winner to receive $20 less, using the following equation, how many winners were there altogether? So let's find X, the number of initial winners. So to do that, we're going to multiply by X and X plus 1, because there is an LCD. Actually, we need both pieces. So my LCD is X times X plus 1. X times X plus 1. And X times X plus 1. So watch what happens. The X plus 1's disappear, leaving me 600X. Here, nothing drops out, so I'm left with 20X times X plus 1. And here, the X's drop out, leaving you 600X plus 1. So could we solve this now? Yeah. Distribute here. First of all, write 600X. This will be plus 20X squared plus 20X equals, distribute the 600, 600X plus 600. Alrighty, those are some big numbers. Well, since we have an X squared, don't we want to set it equal to 0? So what I'm going to do here, actually first thing I want to do is clean up this side. 20X squared plus 620X equals 600X plus 600. And then now, can I minus the 600x over? And also minus the 600 over, which I can't really minus from either of those, so I just have this minus 600 floating. So what I have here is a 20x squared plus 20x, oops, too many, let's get that, 20x minus that 600. All right, so I now have to solve that. Well, to solve that, can you pull out a GCF of 20? Leaving me x squared plus x minus, 20. How many 20s in 600? Well, 5 20s in 100, and there's 6 5s. So isn't that 30? Now, can you factor that? Negative 30 on top, 1 on bottom, 6 and negative 5. So 20, x plus 6, x minus 5. So my answers are, what makes this 0 and what makes this 0? So my answers are negative 6 and 5. So can you have negative 6 winners? No. So out of preposterous answers, can't you cross that one out? You don't have to look for excluded, because it doesn't make any sense. It's excluded out of logic. So my answer is 5. Am I done? How many winners were there altogether? No, there weren't 5. There were how many? 5 plus 1 equals 6 winners. Won't that stink to miss the problem because you didn't add the 1? Be careful.